The Fuel Sports Network.
Behold the King of Kings.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
I'm dropping the hammer.
No, you're not.
And that's the bottom line.
Here, have a quarter, make a phone call.
I have wrestled with an alligator.
What?
I done tussled with a whale.
What?
I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail.
Funky butt loving.
Did he say funky butt loving?
There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Let the big dog eat.
Woo! Whoa! Woo! Whoa! Woo! Woo! It's time!
Good morning, everybody. How we doing today? Hopefully everybody's doing pretty darn well. Welcome to this week's edition of the Derek King Show. Make some minor microphone adjustments because, that's what's necessary around here. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of our wonderful sponsors and partners, not limited to, but some to mention. McDougall Bat Company is one of our main affiliate partners that we work with. Dubby Energy, Just Meat Jerky, True Victory Apparel, lots and lots of others and more to come. But just to get all that out of the way, how are we doing today? I've been a little bit under the weather. Been the allergies. We had that hurricane down south, and obviously it blew up a bunch of pollen, and everybody's having a fit. Present company included. As you can see, I've done some rearranging over my shoulders and moved some stuff around. And, just try to do that on the regular. Just keep you on your toes. But that's the way we do things around here. What do you guys want to talk about? That's the kind of the running joke that we always have. The Cody Rhodes promo. What do you guys want to talk about? There's lots of things we could talk about. I mean, there's lots of things going on in the sports world. Obviously, there's different little things that are kind of got some people on edge about some stuff. Some stuff has died down. Some stuff has picked up. It was funny because I was watching a interview with the former big leaguer David Justice just here the other day. And it was actually a really intuitive interview that they were doing. And it was him and Keyshawn Johnson, and they were talking, a former Jets wide receiver, former Bucks wide receiver. And they were talking about baseball, specifically how we've seen a massive reduction in African Americans playing baseball. Because I can remember in the 80s, I can remember even in the 90s when it was a big, it was a big thing, it was a big deal. And they brought something to point that I really wanted to kind of point on, is that with the advent of travel ball, and okay, all you parents out there that have kids in travel ball, you get this, you understand. How much is a baseball bat? A good one. Okay, as you can see over my shoulder right here, I got a Louisville Slugger right here. Right next to that is a Rawlings. Right next to that is another Louisville Slugger and another Rawlings. Big stick on the here. That second one and that last one is a big stick. Those bats in and themselves are at or above the $100 mark. So you have this watermark that's set for parents or grandparents or whoever's funding the travel ball stuff. Okay, high school, doesn't matter what it is. It gets costly. Do you know how much one of those gloves costs nowadays? Look it up. Wilson A2000. Look up an infielder's glove for an A2000. Yeah. What if your kid's a catcher? Catcher's mask, pads, just the basic stuff, chest protector, shin guards, things like that. All that other stuff. It gets costly and it starts to add up. So when you talk about inner city kids that are of minority descent, in this particular instance where Keyshawn Johnson and David Justice were talking about the African American community and where they're not in baseball as much anymore. Think about it from this perspective. What I just brought up. If you're struggling for money and times are tight, maybe they're a single parent, household. Maybe they can't afford it. Maybe they can't swing it. It's understandable. I get it. But whenever I want to go and play a sport, that's why you're seeing football and basketball take over, because what do you need to play basketball? A basketball. You don't need anything else. You could go out and shoot hoop day in, day out, all day long. And you could shoot hoop and you're fine. And you're cool. Everything's good. You could go play football. You could toss the football around. You can kick the football around. You don't need any other stuff. Now, people can say, well, you need protective, you need equipment, you need gloves. You don't really need it. I played football growing up. I played a lot of football, no pads. T-shirt and shorts and tennis shoes, that's it. That's all you had. You just went out and you played. So I can understand where this is coming from. Baseball has gotten to a point where it is so unaffordable for people that are of a lower economic standard, and not for any other reason than just the way things are, to where you will only see higher level affluent kids that have the financial ability, their parents have the financial ability, or their families have the financial ability for them to be able to play these sports, especially travel ball. Or the parents are going into debt up to their eyeballs, paying for what if you have multiple kids? What if you have 3, 4, kids that want to play ball? Again, even with women's sports, softball, pardon me, even with softball, the amount of stuff that you just need, that you have to play ball. You have to have a bat. You have to have a glove. A lot of travel ball, as you know, you have to have a checklist. You have a checklist of things you have to pay for. In some instances, you have to pay for your hat. You have to pay for your jersey. You have to pay for those things. And you have to go get a certain type of pant, or the pant that they supply you, that you have to pay for. So you get it. You understand. And that's, I think, one of the biggest issues that it's really gotten to a point that this is why you're seeing in today's world, why you're not seeing a lot of young African Americans playing baseball anymore. It's just not sexy anymore. It's not the thing. When you could grab a football or grab a basketball and you could go out and you could do your thing. Here's the thing. Here's another thing with basketball. Somebody had said this. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and brought this exact subject up. And I said, well, all you got to have is a basketball. No, you got to have a hoop. You got to have a backboard. You got to have a hoop. And those things cost money. You know how the old timers used to do it? Why do you think they call it basketball? They used to take those old weave baskets and cut the bottoms out of them and just pin them up to a board. That's all they did. That's all you got to do. You could take a 5-gallon bucket, cut the bottom off of it, and put it up there. There you got your hoop. It ain't that hard. You could shoot. You could do your thing. You could do everything. And you don't have to have anything more than a basketball. And what's a basketball cost? A decent basketball. Say, a branded basketball like Wilson or whatever. And if you have a branded basketball like Wilson, let's say you even have like a professionally branded one, like this is the one they use in the pros. What's that going to cost you? $85? You bought one thing. How much does a bat cost? That's the whole point. A McDougal Bat Company being one of our affiliate sponsors that we work with. And they have excellent products. They have excellent bats. So I firmly believe this. Some of the best bats, if not the best bats on the market. That's my opinion. I've swung a lot of bats over the years, but they're costly. And when you're buying Louisville Sluggers like that one, which is a pro stock, powerized Louisville Slugger. Those are not cheap, but they aren't as expensive. They're a third, a half, depending on what level you come in at on some of these bats, of where you would come at with like a Baum bat, right? Which is a hybrid bat. The same thing with a McDougall bat. It's a hybrid bat because it's sandwiched wood, but yet it's still wood. And then you're talking about the glove. And then you're talking about paying for your way, pay the fee to get in, to even play ball. And then let's talk about the biggest part of it. What do parents got to pay to get in to watch their kid even play? There's some places they're charging them $20 a head to get into play. And so how many people do you usually see? And to be honest with yourself, ask yourself a real question. Those parents, those people, the grandparents, anybody else, the kids watching right now that are going out and playing ball, organized ball, how many people do you see in the stands? You know, it's a real question you got to be asking, because I can tell you how much we see in our areas. Not that many. And baseball's pretty big around here. But guess what? Friday night lights, football, high school football, it's a religious experience. Go down to Texas. Ask anybody in Texas what Friday night lights means to them. Ask them. Oh, they'll show you. That's it. That's the thing they do every single week, Friday night lights. Go watch those high school football games. And it doesn't matter if they've got kids playing. It doesn't matter if they've got grandkids playing. It doesn't matter if their nieces or nephews or whomever it is, it's playing or doing their thing. There are kids in band doing the band march. There are kids that are working on staff. There are kids that are playing in the game. There are other families that are doing all sorts of other different types of things. Again, it's how many people you see at those events. At Friday night lights, high school football events, anywhere. Even look at, where I'm from, the state of Missouri. You look all around the state of Missouri, football has taken over. Football is the thing. You don't see the fans at baseball games that you do at football games. Now, there are some places, and I'm going to give a shout out down in Jeffco, where we've done a lot of work, and I've worked with a lot of the great families and the teams down there in that market, that region, and that Hillsboro, Festus, St. Pius area, all of that stuff. Baseball's a big deal down there, boys and girls. If you haven't noticed, it's a big deal, and as it should be. And they really are passionate about that. But again, put it up against the football and then come talk to me. And then say, well, no, that's not really true. Baseball, when it's hot outside, when it's that hot, and it's, 100 degrees out, humidity's 85, 95%, whatever, it's ridiculous. It's squelching, right? Even if it's 80 degrees outside, then it's in the 80% range for humidity. It's so hot, and it's so unbearable. And then you sit there, and you sit, in most of the cases, in some of these smaller areas, you have the bleachers in the stands where they don't even have cover overhead. You don't have it. So you're sitting out there in the sun, you're sweating your butt off, you're watching your kid, their team play. Pardon me again. I should have a cough button. I don't cough that often. How long have you all been watching the show? How long have I been doing this? For quite a long time. Several years. Very seldom am I coughing and, having issues with my speaking voice. There has been a couple of times where I have lost my voice during a show or started to lose my voice during a show. It's rare, few and far in between. But it's something to think about when it comes to the situation where baseball as a sport is. I still love baseball. Baseball is my, second love kind of thing. I love football too, don't get me wrong. But I love boxing, and I love MMA. I love sports, generally speaking. I never really was, and as you could see over my shoulder back here, right above, St. Louis City, I never really was much of a MLS or soccer, or is over in Europe, they call it actually football. I was never much of a fan of that archetype of game. It wasn't something that spoke to me at the time, but it started to grow on me a little bit. Now, I have gotten to this stage in my life where I'm a little bit older, I'm a little bit wiser. And I don't like to stay up as late as I used to. We've all been there. We've gotten there. We've done that. Let me know, because I can tell you it's a fact. And I just don't like loud things anymore, because, I just don't. I'm getting to be a cranky old man. How many cranky old men we got out there? Oh, let us know. We've got a few of them around. I'm one of them. I'll hold my hand up, say it. But if baseball wants to fix the issue that baseball has with recruiting, specifically, and we're just specifically talking about young African-American men, boys and men, into the sport, it's not necessarily about the money. I mean, they're making really good money. I mean, what's base salary for a major leaguer at this point? I know there's it's scaled differently for if you're a veteran versus if you're a rookie, what kind of deals you're on, so on and so forth. But I want to say the base salary anymore is like $250, coming into the league. That's pretty good. I remember years ago, it used to be like close to 100, 125, somewhere around in there. And that was years ago. But now I think it's up close to that 250 mark is where, entry level coming into the majors. That's kind of where you're at. Now, obviously, veteran status, you can negotiate whatever you want to negotiate to stay in the bigs. But that's where baseball is. And whenever kids can come straight out of high school playing hoop, okay, and then come straight out of high school like LeBron did, or some of these other kids have done, and go straight into the NBA and be making millions. The NIL stuff, I don't want to belabor a lot of this because it gets too overly complicated and it just bores people to tears, and I don't want to talk about it either. But it's something that you have to talk about. It's something that you have to discuss. Because if you don't, the thing that you're going to end up running into is a misunderstanding of why college is the way it is, what the NCAA has become up to this point, and they're starting to try to change that image with the NIL deals and everything else. The truth of the matter is that now it makes more sense than ever for a lot of these kids, men, that are extraordinarily talented at playing a sport at the age that they're at, to leave and then go play the sport and then come back later and finish their education. Because why overly stress yourself whenever you could just come back? There's so many of these players that have done it. And if they come back and get a free ride from the organization then. So it's something to think about. It's something to kind of put into your mental Rolodex and go, well, now that makes sense. I get that. But if baseball wants to solve baseball's problem, which is attracting young black athletes into the sport again, you're going to have to make it more affordable. You're going to have to make it easier for them to be able to play that game. David Justice brought up a wonderful point when he was talking with Keyshawn about that during the interview, and I implore you to go watch it if you have a little bit of time. But what does Venezuela do? What does Puerto Rico do? The Dominican Republic. What do they do? They build facilities and they do it all for free. They fill these facilities with infrastructure, bats, balls, gloves, helmets, apparel, everything. They do it. They take care of it. So even the poorest of the poor kid can come and play without having to shell out thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to play organized ball. This is what we're talking about. This is the reality of where baseball is. And until baseball can figure out a better way to handle the financial aspect of what it costs to play the game, you're going to relegate yourself to certain affluent backgrounds or other countries that provide that service to their communities that may or may not have the ability to afford to be able to do it. That's what needs to be done. How many youth football camps do you see out there? I see them all the time. AJ McCarron is going to be hosting a youth football camp down south, I believe down there in Alabama. They're coming up soon. Okay, so they're going to be having that down there. I believe it's this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Saturday or Sunday down there in Alabama. Go check it out. AJ McCarron is going to be hosting a event down there. So, again, football camps. Isaac Bruce football camp here in the Missouri area. You know, I've seen so many other football players that's done youth camps and all these other things, and they do it. Basketball camps. You see it all the time. They're doing basketball camps all the time at inner cities and things like that. They do it for free. They don't even – it's just – hey, we're just doing this. Come one, come all. Show up. If you want to make a donation, we're happy to take that donation. We're a 501(c)(3). We could do that. You know, you can get a nice little tax write-off, all this other stuff. This is what baseball doesn't do. How many free baseball camps do you see out there to where they have the bats, they have the balls, they have the gloves, they have the equipment, the catcher's equipment, everything? You tell me, because I'm comment section's open, because I haven't never seen them. If they have been, they're in areas where I haven't been around. But if baseball wants to solve the issue that it has, which is not attracting the younger community, especially the poorer backgrounds, then what do? Here's the thing. We all know, because we've seen it. We grew up with movies like The Sandlot, right? Okay. You know, I'm dating myself, but movies like The Sandlot or The Rookie, you know, even though that was kind of a comedy more than anything, with what was the kid's name? Bumgardner, I think it was his name. You know, he had the arm surgery and they screwed up his tendon where he could throw really hard. But the kids in Brooklyn, in New York, in the streets, poor kids, you know, come from all sorts of backgrounds. They play stickball. All the time. Play it in the streets. They would just get like literally a doll rod, you know, that's yay big around. And they get like one or two balls. And that's how they play. They didn't even have ball gloves. They would just play with their hands. But now you can't do that no more. There's too many laws against it. There's too many regulations against it. There's all this different kinds of crap. And again, nobody wants to do it. Now, if I'm a youngster and I go and I play football, organized football at my school, doesn't matter if it's an inner city school, if it's a charter school, it doesn't matter. Whoever it is, it's playing organized football. They are going to supply me with a helmet and pads and a jersey and pants. Now, I may have to go out and get my own cleats, but a lot of times they're going to supply all that equipment. You know how much a legitimate football helmet costs up here, right? This Cardinal one right here is a legitimate, real football helmet. The other two are just replicas. But this is a legitimate, real football helmet. Do you know how much something like that would cost nowadays, like a Riddle Speed or, you know, one of the other newer type of concussion-based helmets that they have with the extra padding and the spring back systems and everything that they have nowadays? That's $500. It ain't cheap. It's expensive. But how can football do that? Well, they have boosters. They have a lot of people that are more than willing and helpful to give money in order to have the system. Look at these football stadiums that we're seeing in Texas today. High school. Go look them up on Google. They're right there. They're the size of college football stadiums. They're putting 20, 10, 15, 20,000 people in those facilities of a game, and they're charging everybody a ticket. It's no different than the pros. When you go to an NFL game, how much does an average NFL game? If you are, I don't know, mid-tier, right? Like second bowl, third bowl, not fourth bowl, but second, third. And you want to take your family. Let's say it's an average of 4 people. Okay. How much does it cost to go to an average football game today? Buy a hot dog, buy everybody a hot dog, maybe a popcorn and a drink. Okay. That's reasonable. What does that cost on average? Because I can tell you how much it costs on average for a family of 4 to go to a single NFL football game. And this does not count travel expenses. It does not count hotels. It just, what does it cost to get through the gate? And you're not using a ticket brokerage. You're not using SeatGeek. You're not using anything that you negotiate a price on, right? You're just getting in the door to watch a football game. It will cost you anywhere from $500 to $750 for a family of 4 to go to an NFL football game mid-range, 2-3 bowl. When the Rams were still in St. Louis and they were bad, they weren't winning any games, you could negotiate a lower bowl ticket. You could negotiate a mid bowl, 2 levels, second level, third level, and you could get them pretty cheap. But look at where baseball's at right now. I mean, baseball's getting to be a point where they're giving away tickets and people won't even take them. It's like the running joke of specifically because I love Cowboys jokes because I love to joke on the Cowboys and especially the fan base because a lot of them just they can't handle it. But it's always funny, especially whenever the teams are bad. And the joke always goes, you got to watch out. I had somebody break into my car and busted my window out, and I had two Cowboys tickets laying in the seat, and somebody broke in and they left 2 more. It's terrible. And it's a funny joke. If you get it, it's funny. Okay. But that's kind of, where baseball is at this point. Nobody really wants to go and watch it. It's not fun anymore. It's not exciting. In 1998, 7, 8, 9, when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were having the home run race and they were cranking out balls left and right, golly, go back and watch some of those videos. All-Star games, those games that featured those players that were on the road even, going to other teams that were bad at the time, they'd still sell out. Or they would still get close to selling because people wanted to see the major attraction. They want to see that superstar player. Like in football, you've got superstar players. Okay? In basketball, you always had like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, LeBron James, so on and so forth. You can name them. In baseball, you could name them, who the marquee players were. Especially like even in the WNBA right now. The one player who's gotten all the most attraction, more than any other player, and it's just a factual thing, and it's brought eyeballs to the sport, has been Caitlin Clark. Any way that you want to spin it, it's people, and trust me, there's people out there that want to spin it all sorts of different ways, that it's just a fact. It's a fact that nobody really cared all that much about the WNBA prior to Caitlin Clark coming. And then when Caitlin Clark came, then everybody made a big stink about it. And now everybody's got to watch to see what happens, because it's kind of like the whole emphasis of going and watching a NASCAR race. Do you go and watch a NASCAR race to watch them go around a circle and make left turns for, 500 miles? No, you don't. You go to watch for the accidents and the wrecks. And I don't care what anybody says. That's the truth. Why do you watch an MMA fight? To see a guy get his butt knocked out. Why do you watch a boxing match? You're not watching it for the, most people, they're not watching it for the sport, the art of boxing and how to box, how to outsmart a guy in a ring. They're not watching it for that. They're watching that guy to get his lights dimmed. That's what they're watching it for. Okay. Or they're watching it, for the spectacle. Hockey. Do you watch it for hockey, for them to slap a puck around? You're waiting for the fight. Is that right? You're waiting for that fight against the boards when somebody gets cross-checked and somebody doesn't like it. They send the enforcer out. But even hockey's got themselves in trouble because they've eliminated so much of that. They've eliminated the fighting, and it's really kind of turned a lot of people off because of it. The fight game's a big deal, and that's why the NFL has the success that it has, is because of the physical aspect of this kind of war, this guttural war going on between two teams. Baseball has to bring that back. They have to bring that visceral idea behind it. They have to bring it back. And that's where they're going to have the most success going forward. If baseball wants to do it, that's how they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to help these communities. They're going to have to get in there. They're going to have to give some freebies. They're going to have to do some stuff because this is not just a here and now problem. This has been a generational problem for baseball for a lot of years. And that's the only way baseball's going to fix it. You know, the thing is that you have the saturation of certain sports that are out there and they've had success doing what they do. You know, we've talked about it ad nauseum through the show. And with any of the fight game, right? Any of the fight game, boxing, MMA, even like wrestling, not professional wrestling as far as entertainment professional wrestling, but actual legitimate, in a circle on a mat wrestling. Those have seen a jump. Why? Because they're a physical sport. It's a war. And that's what people want to see. They want to see the fight. They want to see that agitation and aggravation, the thrills and the chills and the spills. That's what they want to see. It's human nature. It's what we are. We're built predicated around that. That's the whole point. But everybody, we've had a great turnout this morning. I appreciate everybody showing up for the half-hour show. I am going to be on vacation all of next week, but I'm going to be putting a special in the bag, and it will be going live on Wednesday at our normal time. I just wanted to go ahead and let you know that ahead of time. And but it will be a new episode, so don't worry your beautiful little heads, because I will be back with a new episode next Wednesday, even though I physically won't be here, but you'll see it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. Appreciate you. Love you. We'll see you guys back here again next week. And don't forget, tune into all the other great shows on the network, too. FuelSportsNetwork.com. Go over there to the website. Check it out. Lots of cool stuff, articles, everything over there. We will see you guys here next week. Adios.